Okay guys, pay attention.
A rock from another star system just entered our solar system, then broke 9 laws of nature and vanished behind the sun. And when it came back, it was a different color, hotter than any comet ever recorded, and something had pushed it sideways. NASA doesn't know if it's natural, but 9 separate anomalies, each incredibly rare, one of them just being 1 in 20,000. So imagine them together. This wasn't random, and it might not have been so natural after all.
Okay, so let's go back 3 months. On July 1st, 2025, an astronomer at the Atlas telescope in Rio Hurtado, Chile, alone at 2 a.m., was reviewing the night's automated captures when something just caught her eye. It was this faint smudge against Sagittarius, which that's what I am. But the magnitude was 18, and this guy almost missed it. But something made him, for some reason, flag it. And when you flag something, it means you'll go return and check it out later. And that little instinct may have caught the biggest discovery in human history. So the object was moving fast. And when they calculated the trajectory, they realized it was moving at 58 kilometers per second in excess velocity, which is 130,000 miles per hour faster than anything bound to our sun should be moving. Just think about that. They named it C/25N1 Atlas, and within days, they would confirm that it was really 3I/Atlas. The I stands for Interstellar. So what this all basically means is this is the 3rd confirmed visitor from beyond our solar system. But this time, it's the size of Manhattan. Sam Dean couldn't sleep. The amateur astronomer was sitting in his home office in the middle of the night, scrolling through archived telescope images that most people would never look at. I'm talking about automated sky surveys that photograph the same patches of sky over and over, looking for anything that's slightly out of the ordinary or that moves. And he decided to search backwards from July 1st to June 25th, and he saw nothing. Then June 20th, nothing. Then he opened the file folder from June 5th, 2025. And there it was. A faint, oh so faint, streak against the dense star fields near the galactic center that should not have been there. And he cross-referenced it with the July discovery. And it's the same trajectory, the same object. His hands were literally shaking as he posted it online. 3I Atlas had been in our solar system for at least a month before anybody noticed it. Now, that kind of concerns me. Does it concern you? Let me know in the comments. It had slipped past every single telescope, amateur or professional, every detection system, every early warning network designed specifically to spot incoming objects. So in layman's terms, it was already here. And when professional astronomers traced the trajectory backwards through space, they went silent. The orbital eccentricity was 6, and yes, there will be some words that I don't understand, but we'll get to that. Because anything with an eccentricity, didn't you know, less than 1 is bound to the sun, of course. Comments from the Oort cloud might hit 0.9, maybe 0.99, but 6? That's not an orbit. That is a hyperbolic trajectory, a straight shot through our system from somewhere else. In the excess velocity, the 58 kilometers per second, 130,000 miles per hour faster than it needed to be to escape our sun's gravity. This meant that this thing had been traveling through the void between stars for longer than human civilization has existed. Think about that. From the direction of Sagittarius, from the Milky Way's ancient core, and now it was diving straight towards our sun. Well, in late July, the James Webb Telescope, floating in darkness a million miles from Earth, turned its infrared eye toward this little visitor. Not so little, actually. That is when the data started coming in at the Space Telescope Science Institute in Baltimore. Water vapor, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide. All normal for a comet. Then, I'll probably say this wrong, then the spectroscopy team saw something in their readings. The CO2 to water ratio was 8:1, the highest ever recorded. And there were no heavy organics, none of the complex carbon molecules that every solar system comet carries. The chemical fingerprint proving where it came from, which that part alone is very strange. And then Dr. Sarah Chen at JPL wrote in her preliminary report, quote,
"This object formed in a protoplanetary disk fundamentally different from ours. Colder, older, alien.
But that wasn't actually what made the lead astronomer at the Very Large Telescope in Chile call his colleague at 3 a.m. No. When they ran this spectroscopic analysis, they found cyanide, normal. Hydroxyl radicals, normal. Then atomic nickel vapor. And there was lots of it. Nickel, you gotta realize, is a very heavy metal. It doesn't sublimate off comets. It stays locked in the nucleus under layers of ice. But 3I Atlas was venting nickel into space like an industrial smokestack. And as it got closer and closer to the sun, the levels kept climbing. The nickel to cyanide ratio was 1,000 times higher than any known comet ever. The kind of concentrations that you would see in industrial alloys. Now, if any of you watched Joe Rogan, you might have seen this because this guy was on there a couple days ago. His name is Avi Loeb. And at Harvard, he wrote one line in his blog that most astronomers tried to ignore. And that's less than 1% probability of occurring naturally. Talking about 3I Atlas. But what they couldn't ignore is what happened next. You see, through August and September, observatories across 3 continents tracked 3I Atlas as it plunged towards the sun. And the coma, that cloud of gas and dust boiling off the surface, grew to 300,000 kilometers across, nearly the distance from Earth to the moon, surrounding an object the size of Manhattan. And then, a month ago, on October 3rd, the Mars orbiters captured it passing 30 million kilometers from the red planet. A fuzzy white dot with a tail pointing in the wrong direction. And then between October 14th and October 28th, we're talking just a week ago, 3I Atlas did something that broke every model. It brightened by a factor of 7 within 2 weeks. 7 times brighter than it should have been. I mean, guys, we aren't on Photoshop. How is that possible? Because yes, comets gradually, as they approach the sun, brighten. We've studied hundreds of them. We know the curves. But 3I Atlas was shedding 2 million tons of mass in a single month, blazing brighter and brighter as the sun's heat tore into whatever it was made out of. And then last week on October 27th, a research team published the findings. Visible gas emissions driving surge. But here's what they could not explain. The object was brightening like it was releasing massive amounts of gas. But when they looked for the gas cloud, the visible evidence that should have been surrounding it like a beacon, they couldn't find it. And yes, guys, I am very strongly hinting towards something, but stay to the end. So the math said one thing, the telescopes showed another thing, and then it disappeared behind the sun. And that's where the fun begins. So on October 21st, 3I Atlas entered solar conjunction, going around the sun. And from Earth's, our perspective, the object passed directly behind the sun, hidden in the overwhelming glare of our star. Ground-based telescopes went blind. For 8 days, nobody on Earth could see what was happening. And that's why most of the videos that you will see, they won't include this next part, so listen up. Perihelion, the closest approach, was scheduled for October 29th at 11:15 Universal Time. And that's when the object would pass 126 million miles from the sun's surface, right between Earth and Mars, close enough for solar radiation to superheat whatever ice remained on its surface, and also close enough to trigger explosive outgassing, close enough to hide. So a handful of spacecraft kept watching. NASA's GOES 19 satellite, the solar and heliospheric atmosphere, Stereo A, drifting through space on the far side of the sun. They all captured the same thing on October 29th. At that exact moment of perihelion, 3I Atlas erupted. And that's when all of a sudden we could see 4 distinct tails, jets of material stretching for 300,000 kilometers out into space, each one longer than the distance between the Earth and the Moon. The object was glowing at a magnitude 9, bright enough to outshine most stars despite being 126 million miles away from Earth.
There, it's moving. Mark that bearing.
One of the tails was pointing toward the sun, straight into solar winds, and that shouldn't happen. Now, I hope I get this gentleman's name correct, but amateur astronomer Warchit Bonplod, processing the public satellite data from his home in Thailand, watched this object survive intact. No fragmentation, no disintegration, just those 4 massive tails and that impossible glow. And he posted the processed images online on October 30th with a single caption, quote, "It made it through." But you see, 3I Atlas hadn't just survived, it had changed. And on October 30th, Dr. Elena Martinez's hands were still shaking when she showed the data to her team lead. They were looking at radio telescope readings for perihelion 3 days earlier, and the numbers made absolutely no sense. 3I Atlas, that Manhattan-sized object from another star system, wasn't where it should be. The position was off by 4 arc seconds. So they ran calibration checks, just to make sure.
We're seeing an unexpected CO2 spike, confirming anomalous gas signature now.
And they triple checked the calculations, and it was the same result every time. At that distance, 4 arc seconds meant a deviation of 80,000 miles, something not small. So that means something had pushed it sideways. The acceleration was tiny, 0.02 millimeters per second squared, but real, and it was measurable. And the direction wasn't just away from the sun like outgassing would cause. It had a transverse component, like lateral movement. Crucially, the vector of this force, a steady transverse push, is inconsistent with typical cometary outgassing, which causes a pulsed radial acceleration, only pushing straight away from the sun. This deviation suggests a sustained, controlled thrust. Almost there, guys. Stay with me. Okay, Dr. Marco Michelli at ESA input the data into JPL's Horizon system. That's what it's called. It's the most sophisticated orbital software that we have. And his preliminary note was measured scientific and carefully. And it said, non-gravitational forces detected. Magnitude exceeds predictions. And then somebody noticed the color had changed. Before perihelion, it was reddish, typical for organic rich surfaces. But after perihelion, it was blue. Not reflecting blue light, it was emitting it. The spectroscopic signature showed 5,000 Kelvin, hundreds of degrees hotter than any comet should be. This blue glow looked like ionized gas or some kind of emission process that they had never seen before. So basically, guys, it looked like something was glowing from the inside. And that's when Avi Loeb decided to speak up. On October 31st, Avi Loeb, the Harvard astrophysicist who had been mocked for years for suggesting Oumuamua might be more than a rock, if you guys remember that last one. Well, he appeared now on the 31st on Joe Rogan's podcast. And of course, if you know Joe Rogan, He didn't waste any time at all. "Is this thing alien?" he said. And that's when Loeb leans back in his seat. Quote,
"I rank interstellar objects on a scale. 0 means definitely natural. 10 means definitely artificial technology. Oumuamua got a 3 because of its unexplained acceleration. And 3-1 Atlas, well, a 4. And it could go higher depending on December's observations."
And then he laid out his case, right? 9 anomalies that individually might have natural explanations. But together, listen to this, together created something statistically improbable. Number 1, trajectory aligned within 5 degrees of the ecliptic, where all planets orbit. Random chance? Well, it's actually 1 in 20,000, like we talked about. Number 2, Manhattan-sized nucleus, but strangely faint coma. Either incredibly dense or dust poor. Neither fits normal comets. Number 3, the chemistry. The CO2 dominance with no organics. Nothing in our solar system looks like this. Number 4, the nickel concentration 1,000 times higher than any known comet. Less than 1% natural probability. Now I think you're starting to see why all these less than 1%, 1 in 20,000, when you put them all together, it means something out of this world. Number 5, the color shift. Red before perihelion, blue after. The blue emission at 5,000 Kelvin. Number 6, the brightening. 7 times faster than models allow, without the corresponding visible gas cloud. Number 7, an important one, the lateral push. Non-gravitational acceleration that exceeds standard outgassing predictions by 80,000 miles. Number 8, the arrival direction, coming from galactic south instead of the statistically expected path. And then number 9, the timing. Perihelion during the exact 8-day window when Earth couldn't observe it. Hidden during that one moment when any anomaly would be camouflaged by natural solar heating. And now the probability of all 9 occurring together by chance, Loeb let the question hang for a little bit, and then he said it's vanishingly small. So Rogan kind of leaned forward and he said, "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying," and Loeb at this point, he chose his words carefully. He's in front of millions of people. Hopefully we get there one day. But he said that if an advanced civilization wanted to study a star system, they wouldn't send something obvious. They'd send something that could, blend in. Something that looks natural. He paused for a moment and he said, "And if that's something needed to make a course correction, like fire an engine or adjust the trajectory, when would be the perfect moment?" That's when Rogan asked, "When?" "Perihelion. The closest to the sun, maximum heat and radiation, when every single telescope, no matter where you are, is blinded by solar glare and any thrust signature looks exactly like a comet outgassing. How would we even know?" And Loeb's expression was unreadable. He said we wouldn't, not without looking very carefully at the data afterward. The implication hung in the air between them. And as of November 1st, just 2 or 3 days ago, 2025, 3i Atlas is racing away from the sun at 130,000 miles per hour. Right now, NASA's Europa Clipper is sampling its tail, and the James Webb Space Telescope is tracking its exit. The Galileo project is even scanning our atmosphere for many probes that might have been released during those 8 hidden days behind the sun. Now, they haven't found anything yet. And however you want to shake this up, 3i Atlas, I believe, is extraterrestrial, like I said, but it doesn't matter what I believe. But it is confirmed by NASA, ESA, and every other major observatory that this thing is incredibly strange and could be. Born in another star system, it entered on a trajectory that proves beyond a doubt that it came from somewhere else. And for the first time in human history, we have proof that objects from other star systems visit us. Because nobody, Try to. Nobody can explain all 9 anomalies together. The industrial nickel, the blue emission, the impossible brightening, the sideways push, the perfect timing during conjunction when no telescope on Earth could watch it. I've been saying this for 20 years. People called me crazy. They said interstellar visitors, were fantasy. Then came Oumuamua in 2017, Borisov in 2019. Now this. And this one's different. The scientific community now has a bunch of proof that a Manhattan-sized object defied the laws of gravity. So why every single scientist right now doesn't just say, yes, it's extraterrestrial? Well, they like to be safe than sorry. It made a tiny, sustained, non-gravitational course correction during that 8 days it was hidden behind the sun. The science is clear. That impossible sideways push, a perfect maneuver during the ultimate solar blind spot, is a technological signature in my opinion. I hate how I have to add "in my opinion." So, a lot of people for decades have been looking for something like this, and realizing that some of these visitors aren't just rocks. They are moving with purpose. And now everybody knows, I hope, that the visitors are real. But the story isn't over. Because as I said before, scientists like to be safe than sorry, and on December 19th, so coming up in about a month and 2 weeks, 2025 of course, it's called the acid test. And this is the day that 3I Atlas makes its closest approach to Earth, which is still 170 million miles away. But it is one last chance for our telescopes to see it clearly before it fades away into the darkness, maybe for forever. But here is the very important part. If there is a visible gas cloud surrounding it, the cloud that must be there if natural outgassing caused that sideways 1 in 20,000 push, then Loeb will, lower his estimate. Maybe it's a natural comet, mystery solved, right? But here's the thing. If there is no cloud, his number goes way up. Everything changes. And we'll never get another chance to know for sure. The scientific models say it's on a clear escape path. But if that strange blue glow is a motor, if that sideways push was a course correction, well, what happens though if between now and December 19th, this visitor from beyond decides to make another non-gravitational turn? And this time, what if it turns towards us? And P.S. here is one final chilling truth. This is true. When I ran all the anomalies through one of the smartest AIs on the planet, its conclusion was simple and absolute. That's why, I'm saying I think this is extraterrestrial, because it said 3I Atlas is officially, undeniably 100% extraterrestrial. Now I know AI can be wrong, but your gut feeling usually isn't. So what is your gut telling you right now? Let me know right now in the comments. I love you guys. I'll see you next time. Cheers.